Hello, I'm Shonda Witherspoon. Today I'll be discussing Pearl S. Buck. The fundamentalist modernist controversy was a major splitting within the Presbyterian Church during the 20s and 30s. Fundamentalists who believed biblical inerrancy and the Bible was absolute and considered it the basis of the Christian faith. Modernists, or rather liberal Christians, known for a liberal theology, a movement that seeks to interpret and reform Christian teaching by taking into consideration modern knowledge, science, and ethics. Modernists questioned the Bible and rejected certain doctrines. It seemed not only questioning the Bible was against the church, but any criticism toward any of the church's institutions as well. This was the case of Pearl S. Buck. Most people who know of Buck remember her as the author of the 1932 Pulitzer Prize winning novel, The Good Earth, and over 60 other books, respectively. But she also is remembered for her modernist views that shook the Presbyterian Church missionary system and almost sent her to a trial of heresy. Born in West Virginia to Southern Presbyterian parents who were missionaries to China, she first arrived in China at the age of 5 months. She would remain there until 1911 and go to college in America, but returned in 1914, serving as a Presbyterian missionary until 1933. During this period, her views toward the Presbyterian missionaries later became highly scandalous during the fundamentalist modernist controversy. In 1932, Pearl Buck accepted an invitation to speak at a luncheon of 2,000 Presbyterian women at the Astor Hotel in New York City. The locals flocked to hear Buck because she was a Pulitzer Prize winning author. Her address was titled, "Is There a Case for the Foreign Missionary?" The American audience was so confused as she answered the question herself. In addition to telling them that during her missionary work, she welcomed Chinese to share her Christian faith, but argued that China did not need an institutionalized church dominated by missionaries. What Buck did was condemn the way the church was running the missions, including the treatment of the Chinese people. Grant Wacker, the author of Pearl S. Buck and the Waning of the Missionary Impulse, noted that Buck viewed the American foreign missions practice as incompetent, intolerant, and ineffective. Buck was not an obscure missionary in a forgotten part of the world, but one of the most prominent and successful novelists of the day, who lived in China and was associated in the Chinese culture. And what she said was heard all over the world. Buck was praised by some and even called a prophet. The question she courageously raised was whether the missionary enterprise should remain forever bound by an authoritative, unchangeable, and exact phrase body of doctrine, or whether it should be free to adjust to the needs of the time. But yet, the fundamentalists did not feel this way. They were against her. According to Wacker, Clarence McCartney, the renowned pastor of Pittsburgh First Presbyterian Church, warned that if the church listened to people like Buck, it would soon lose itself in the screaming hurricane of the time. Charles R. Erdman, president of the Presbyterian Board of Foreign Missions and a Princeton Seminary professor, privately hoped that Buck would just resign quietly and go away. She had become a great liability, he grumbled, and a source of much unrest throughout the church. The furor grew. In April of 1933, the Westminster Seminary professor J. Grissom Mitchum formally demanded that the mission board fire Buck and dissociate itself from her. Before the month was out, Buck decided to save everyone the embarrassment of an ugly heresy trial and quietly submitted her resignation. Buck soon sailed back to China to her family. The nation, amused by the ruckus, mockingly noted that probably she feels that place where the heathen rage is preferable to one where the theologians rant. By the 1930s, she had grown profoundly skeptical of the truthful of evangelical Christianity. But in a Easter message published the following spring in Cosmopolitan, she confronted the question directly. In her portrait of the old notion of Jesus as a semi-divine person roaming the hills of Palestine was well magic. Maybe an actual historical person named Jesus never existed. That did not matter. Indeed, whether or not personal God existed, separate from collective spirit of humans, did not matter very much either. What mattered was the character and the spirit in a word. The figure of Jesus Christ, the figure that ideal symbolized man's dream of the simplest and most goodness, the high value of the universal of human imagination. Pearl S. Buck. Thank you.